Hello, welcome everyone to Build of the Week. Today we are looking at Mech, a build that might have found its way back into the meta, currently played by a few top elo individuals on different regions, but it has not become mainstream just yet. In fact, I had a very smooth climb with this myself, so let me show you how it's played so you can start the climb. Let's take a look at the basic setup for this build. We have the Mech as our only frontline here, so we have to make sure to itemize him properly, but we'll come to items later. Then we have our backline carries in Shaco and Victor, one with AD, one with AP items. Karma gives us access to Darkstar, which gives Shaco a little power boost, as well as providing a shield for survivability. And Cassio provides Mystic and Battlecast for the team. Lastly, once we hit level 8, we start playing Gangplank for the demo trait. If you can't find him, just play a 6 instead. It's not that big of a deal. Gangplank 1 without items is not casting 90% of the fight, so don't overvalue him too much. Don't spend too much gold looking for him too much. This is a fast 7 or fast 8 comp, depending on your health. We don't need any 3 stars, which means it can support multiple players, and you can build different variations of this build depending on what you hit, depending on what the game is giving you. But we will talk about build variations later in the video. For now, let's take a look at the items. There are no specific required items that you need to make in order for the comp to work, but there are a few important ones, so let's start with the Mech first. Bramble Vest makes our frontline an actual frontline. We don't get one tap by Jins or by Veins. It makes a huge difference for our frontline, which is why I consider it the most important item in this build. And the second one is QSS. It's either the most or the least important item here in this build, depending on your playstyle. If you're a player that's very good at scouting and dodging Sephiroths, it's not mandatory because that is actually the only reason. Well, if not, better get a QSS because a Sephiroth mech will lose you the game 100%. After Bramble QSS, you can build leftover items on the mech like Giant Slayer or Ionic Spark for added DPS, or maybe just a Titan's Resolve, Dragon Claw for a bit more tankiness, whatever leftover components you have. Don't slam a GA on the mech early. It's much better on Shaco or maybe on GP if you hit him later. For Shaco, let's get your AD items here. He loves Guardian Angel, Bloodthirster, Infinity Edge, RFC, Lost Whisper. I think you get it. He basically is your holder for any sword or bow items. He can carry hard with the right items, and he tops your DPS charts if he's well itemized, so it's definitely worth it to invest some items into him. Our second carry is Victor. He is our AP item holder. Always try to get him Moralos, in my opinion, the second most important item in this build. Then give him whatever leftover tier rot items you can make, like blue buff, like Shojin, a chalice or a death cap, whatever components you get. Any utility items or thieves gloves go on Cassio or Karma, or on GP later if you don't happen to have a leftover GA somewhere lying around. You can see this comp is very versatile with items. Every item has some user in this comp, which is actually part of the reason this is so comfortably to play for me. For the playstyle, start the carousel with a chain vest. If you don't get that, any other item works, because as I said, this build is not really item dependent, but I prefer either a glove so you can slam an early QSS or Infinity Edge, or a sword as well for GA or an Infinity Edge again, or maybe just a rod for a Morelos, Ionic Spark, some strong early game items that you can make use of. In the early game, you have to play what the game gives you. If you feel weak, try to econ as much as possible. Try to get to around 30 or 40 gold at the creep round with a losing streak so you can level up to level 6 on stage 3-2 with a very nice economy. On the other hand, if you feel strong and high roll some units early, play aggressive and use your win streak to econ, pre-level to 5 on stage 2-3 for a higher chance to get a natural fizz, and then level to 6 on stage 3-1 to preserve your win streak. Here are some examples of early game boards that you can use. I really like the Poppy opening, where Poppy is your frontline, you give Poppy all your mech items as an item holder, and Ari carries your AP items if you happen to get any. The downside of this is you don't really have a holder for any AD items, so I would only use this if I get like the good AP items in the beginning. Otherwise, I'll probably try to go for another opening, like this, for example, where Eloy is our holder for our mech items. We play the Rebel Synergy, where Set can use our AD items, for example, all the items that we give to Shaco later. This is a very, very strong opener with 2 Battlecast that has been buffed recently. We have the Brawlers for the front line and the Infiltrators for the DPS. Another good one is the Pirate opener combined with the Cybernetics. We use Darius and Lucian as our damage dealers here. Darius can carry the mech items, maybe Leona too if you happen to get Darius later on. This is just a very solid, very nice opener. There's a lot of other openers. This is just a few examples of what a strong early board looks like with what you can win streak into the mid game. However you reach stage 3, don't roll at level 6, pick up your core units on the bench and try to hit 7 with about 40 gold on either stage 3-5 if you had strong economy but probably less health, or on stage 4-1 if you streaked and are healthy in HP. If you reach level 7 with less than 40 health and no gold, you probably did something wrong, so I would suggest rewatching the video. Here you can see an example of how to survive stage 3 without losing too much health, so maybe you should take a look at that. Of course, remember you can't always hit exactly your dream board, so learn how to play your strongest board, guys. Once you reach level 7, you can start to roll to find your core units. Don't forget the final build is completed at level 8, so don't go down to 0 unless you absolutely have to, because you're on 2 or 3 lives and you would die otherwise, so make always sure to keep that in mind. So I would suggest rolling 20 or 30 gold. Make sure your mech is at least level 5, which means you have 2 2-stars in your mech and 1 1-star. And you have a level 2 carry in either Victor or Shaco. Then save gold for level 8. Latest you want to hit 8 is at the beginning of stage 5, which is where all the late game comms come online of your enemies. If you don't hit level 8 at this time, you probably get destroyed, so make sure you get there. If I'm strong and still healthy, with healthy I mean at like 50, 60 plus life at stage 5, it is worth it to tank a few hits of HP and go to level 9, because at level 9 you're allowed to hit GP far more reliably. You get a GP2 and you can add in an extra 5-cost unit, like for example Janna or Echo, which really boost your whole board a lot. For positioning, there's only a few tips that I can give you. First of all, try to have your mech always on the enemy side, which means if your enemy is positioned on the right side, always try to have your mech be on the right side so he can tank the whole line, the whole carries, and always try to have your Shaco on the opposite side of the enemy carries. So you always want him to jump somewhere so he can start deleting the carries. Karma should be attached to Shaco if your Shaco is itemized. If you feel like Victor is more your carry in this comp, it's actually worth it to attach Karma to Victor just to make sure he doesn't get randomly one-shot by any random AoEs or spells that hit him. So let's take a look at the variations that we can play and what exactly do we do with a spatula. If we get a spatula, I think it's always worth to wait either for a second spatula, because Force of Nature is the superior variation of this, or we opt for an Infiltrator spat, which is also a very strong board because it allows us to play 4 Infiltrators later at level 8, and at level 9 even add in Demo with 4 Infiltrators. I had some very good games with this variation, so that's what your spatula variations should look like. Here is an example board for what a spatula game could look like. We get 4 Infiltrators here, and we just add in Echo at level 8 instead of Gangplank and give our Infiltrator spat to Cassio or Victor or whoever you prefer. This way we have 4 Infiltrators and we actually have a really, really strong new carry with Echo in this one. Another variation would be the Rebel variation, which means if you roll down and you start to notice that instead of Shakos and Victors, you get a lot of Jinxes, don't just skip them, pick them up, pick up what the game gives you, And if you actually get a 2-star Jinx and you see you have some decent items for her, just play the Rebel variation of this build. Have an Aurelian Sol at level 8 that helps you out with the Rebels in general, and have your Jinx be the carry. Have 6 for the demo, and set for the Infiltrator bonus. Asriel will be our blaster to just help our Jinx get going a bit quicker. Another variation that I actually dislike, I tried it a few times but I weren't very successful with it, was the 6 Stalks variation. You just play Xerath as your carry here. If you find a Rage Blade for Xerath and maybe another QSS if you have one on your mech already, it might be very strong. I never get to play that, so maybe one of you guys can tell me if it actually works for you. The times I tried this variation, I wasn't very happy with it, so I never actually opt for it, but it's a possibility, something to consider if you happen to hit a natural Xerath. Let's take a look at the galaxies. I'll make it short here because there's no big ups and downs for galaxies here. It's playable on any galaxy. Binary Star can get a bit tricky because your mech can only carry 2 items, and eventually if you get a lot of items you'll run out of space. So that one is a bit of a yikes, but it's still possible. The strongest one in my opinion is Super Dance, because you can fit in demo on level 7, or you can roll down on 8 and fit in your other 5-cost unit just on level 8, or even just go to level 9 and add 4 Mystics or 4 Infiltrators if you need it. I had a lot of success on Little Legend, surprisingly, because I hate this galaxy, but our power spike comes with the mech, and it actually starts dropping against strong late game comps like strong Rebels, for example. And usually on Little Legends you don't have these strong late game comps, which allows us to be very successful with this comp on this galaxy. For Nicoverse, you can either be greeding for GP if you're healthy enough to do it and just have a free GP2 on level 8, or you can just Nico your Victor or your Fizz for early power spike if you're dropping in health too low. That's it, guys. Thank you very much for watching my build of the week. Let me know in the comments if you have something to discuss concerning the video, or if you have a suggestion for next week's build. Build of the week will be released every Sunday from now on. I'll start posting a commented gameplay example on my channel tomorrow, one day after the latest guide. So make sure to subscribe to the channel, guys, if you want to see more. I'll see you in the next one.